Hey everybody, my name is Ed. Okay, so we're going to do another random comic book walkthrough. This time it's going to be uh, X-Men number 6 from 1992. Okay, so this was the X-Men spin-off comic. So you had Uncanny X-Men, of course, Marvel's most popular comic book at that time, and they continued Uncanny X-Men with with the traditional numbering, and then they started this no adjective X-Men, Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, and it became really famous at the time. Number one did because it sold something like 6 million copies or something like that, some crazy number like that. But of course, this was at the height of the so-called speculator movement, and people kind of know right now that it sold so many copies because so many people were buying multiple copies of it, thinking and they're going to cash in and make all this money and whatnot on it. And of course, where we are now, you can find the thing in like dollar bins and stuff just because so many people bought it. It actually depreciated the collectors, the collectability of it. Everybody's got it, so nobody's going to be paying um, big prices for it or whatever. So anyway, so this is from '92. At this point, I think Chris Claremont had left the X-Men right after issue 3 or 4 or whatever. He basically quit Marvel, and supposedly because he just got tired. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. Of all like the editorial interference, he started writing the comic in '75 or so, and for a long time, he and whatever editor he was working with, they kind of got to do their own thing. But as the comic got bigger and bigger and bigger, the management was involved in it more and more and more. And then it got to the point where they're actually dictating plots to him and things like that. And he decided he wanted to leave. It's also pretty interesting because I'm pretty sure it was either '92 or '93 that they started the X-Men '90s cartoon on Fox TV or Fox Kids or whatever, and the lineup they used for that cartoon was pretty much the lineup for the team that was in this comic, or close to it. You've got Beast, Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue. Back here, it's Psylocke. But on the cartoon, I think they used Jean Grey. And Jubilee is not in the little character box, but she's in this comic. Okay, so let's pull back here. You've got Jim Lee art, and he's all Jim Lee up in here. I don't know if you can tell what this is. Psylocke has got a spear or something like that. This is supposed to be another character's mask. But like I said, I don't know if you're just looking at it on the stand, you'd be able to figure that out. Okay, so let's get into it here. 30th anniversary Marvel, or 30th anniversary Incredible Hulk. Ah, okay. This figure is taken from a cover of some comic. I know a Hulk comic, and I want to say during the Peter David run. I really didn't read the Peter David run, but I'm pretty sure that's where they took that image from. All right, so let's get into it. So, uh, somewhere in Berlin. Now, these guys are supposed to be hand soldiers from the Hand. The Hand are a clan of evil ninjas. They don't really look like ninjas. They look like some guys, some hipster dudes from like a Die Hard movie or something like that. They'd be like the henchmen. They'd be like yeah, that's what they look like. They look like henchmen from like a Die Hard movie with like futuristic weapons or something. But anyway, the X-Men are trying to find Wolverine. Wolverine's been captured by a bad guy named Omega Red, and that's this dude here. He shows up out of nowhere. Pow! And he's basically this evil Soviet super soldier who was who've been put in suspended animation for like decades, and then now he's been rewoken. Okay, here's another bad guy, kind of watching everything. You know, these guys have kind of teamed up. This guy here, it's not really clear from the story, but he was in a previous X-Men story where I think he was part of the Yakuza or something like that. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's see here. Okay, so now we have Maverick. Maverick is a newer character at that particular time. He's found Wolverine. Wolverine's all beat up, and he's gonna pump him with some amphetamine. Wait, this says neuroepinephrine. I don't know if that's a real thing, but this is kind of funny. He says, "Here's enough to wake all United Germany." Yep. And that was a thing because the Berlin Wall had just come down. So, and a lot of people in the so-called West will say, well, we'll say the so-called West was like, oh, this is going to be a great thing, United Germany and all and whatnot. The end of the Soviet Union and whatnot, which actually kind of makes the bad guy being a former Soviet super soldier, pretty relevant to the time. But anyway, he wakes up Wolverine, and Wolverine starts having a flashback, and the flashback is from a time when Wolverine was part of Weapon X / Team X, where you do covert missions for the government. And we see here that Maverick and this guy were actually his partners at the time. We see how some old mission went belly up. Yep, here's some Marvel t-shirts. I can't really tell who the art is on some of these. These X-Men shirts are definitely Jim Lee. I don't know who did the Ghost Rider here. It says Wolverine and Cable. Oh, wait, it does say. It says who did here. It says Liefeld and McFarlane. It's interesting that they got a credit there. Here's Glowing Punisher. I don't know. Is that maybe? I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Michael Golden. I can't tell. Spider-Man's definitely Todd McFarlane. Silver Surfer, I can't tell. And I'm pretty sure this Punisher is probably John Romita Jr. Rage! Because it's the 90s and we're extreme! Okay. So anyway, getting back to the flashback. Excuse me. We see how this all kind of ties a little bit to Omega Red, la-di-da. Mission goes sideways, goes belly up. And then we cut to a scene in another dimension where we catch up with Dazzler, Longshot, and Leah Cheney. And they're on Mojo World, which is a crazy other dimension. And they're getting attacked by Mojo. And they kind of have a fight there. Then they get away. Right? And yeah, so they get away. They have a little quiet moment. And then here we cut back to with the X-Men again. are trying to save their comrades, and they're fighting these hand guys, or the ninja guys. And then here he says, "Looky here, Miss Amise, another bad guy with his hair pulled up in a ponytail. Is there some dress code nobody told me about?" So these guys here are Fenris. I'm not sure they mention it in this comic, but Fenris are supposed to be the the children of Baron Strucker. Baron Strucker is a Nazi soldier that Nick Fury fought back in World War II, and at one point Baron Strucker was the head of Hydra. And even though these guys have superpowers, they don't like mutants. Okay. Alright, so more fighting here. Gambit got knocked out. I'm not sure I get this pun either. He gets knocked out, so Rogue says, "How's Lover by You?" He took the brunt of the blast, and there's still a lot we don't know about Gambit. How's Lover by You? I guess the joke is Gambit would like flirt with characters at this point in the comic. He'd flirt with anybody, but also everybody knew he really liked Rogue. So I guess the joke is supposed to be lover boy, lover by you, lover boy, and by you because Gambit is from New Orleans. I guess that's the pun. But anyway, so here's Psylocke, and then Yakuza guy shows up, and he just says the word "fine," and it suggested that he had slipped a post-hypnotic command into Psylocke in some earlier issue. Okay, but now she's under his command. All right. So then now we're back to Wolverine and Maverick, and Wolverine's woken up, but he doesn't realize who Maverick is. And Maverick realizes, hey, he doesn't remember me. He doesn't remember when me, him, and Creed were part of that covert ops team. He doesn't try to tell him for some reason, but we get into the flashback. And here's an ad for Game Boy. And it's for classic Star Wars. It's not even for it's 60s Star Wars. It's not even for Next Generation. But there's William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. All right. Okay, but anyway, Maverick says something like, "I had orders to bring you in. I am a representative of the German government, and I'm Bullwinkle. Just tell me what you did to the X-Men, or we play my version of three-chord Monty." All right. Anyway, Maverick knocks Wolverine out. And here we have an ad for Youngblood. Youngblood was written and drawn by Rob Liefeld, and it was like the first Image comic that came out. I'm pretty sure it was the first one. Was it? I'm pretty sure it was the first one that came out. Basically, for people who don't know, or people who probably watch this probably do know, but if you don't know, Image was. Do I have any Image comics laying around here? I don't have any Image comics laying around right this second. But Image these days is known as this probably the third largest. I don't know if you want to count Archie Comics, comic book company out there, but pretty big independent comic book, creator-owned comics. A lot of a lot of writers and artists who do stuff for Marvel and DC will go over to Image to work on more personal projects and things like that. In the beginning, though, it started out as pretty much it was still creator owned, but it started out as a superhero universe, and all the comics and characters were loosely connected. Um, but basically, Rob Liefeld, uh, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, what's his name? Eric Larson, and a few other, Jim Valentino, few other people from Marvel who were doing really well at the time, branched off and started their own comic book company. And I'm pretty sure Youngblood was the first one that came out. And this ad line says something like, introducing an all-new team of mutant heroes created, written, and drawn by Rob Liefeld. Issue 1 features the origin of this new team, this hot new team, and introduces a gritty new universe of heroes and villains. And here you can get Extreme #1, Youngblood #1, and then you can get some other merchandise. So if you read the comic, the characters are not supposed to be mutants, but they probably just threw that in there because at the time, again, Rob Liefeld was famous for drawing X-Force at that time, which of course was a mutant superhero team from Marvel. Okay, so here we go. They hear the perimeter alarm, and here's what's interesting. They see the alarm has been tripped by Sabretooth and some other person who's supposed to be escorting them there. And the thing is, Wolverine and Maverick are supposed to be watching this on a monitor somewhere, but you only know that from the dialogue. You can't really just tell. If you were just looking at the pictures, you just think this was just cutting to another scene. But they're watching on a monitor. This woman uses whatever power she has to jam the monitor. And this is kind of interesting. He says, "Are you sure we got the right place, Birdie? Hardly seems the type of neighborhood where you're going to start a Fourth Reich." I am picking up the emotional feedback of the Fenris twins, as well as accountable thought signature. You say we're being spied on? Yes. Then be a deer and jam their signal. Here's the other thing about that. He was kind of invited there by the other bad guys. How is he tripping alarms? Okay, anyway. So here we see all the bad guys, and here's some of the X-Men that have been captured. So we've got, we see the X-Men around there all in shackles. So we got the Fenris twins, we got Sabretooth, we've got Yakuza guy, and we've got Psylocke. Psylocke's one of the good guys, but she's being mind controlled by this guy. Oh, and down here we've got Omega Red. So, la-di-da. Oh, here's another interesting thing. We've got Sabretooth walking over to Gambit saying, I recognize you. Since when did you start working with the good guys? Maybe this is all some scam. Alright, so here's a lot more boasting and things. And then inside, Wolverine and Maverick are still loose, so they have to go find them. Alright. And so then Sabretooth and Mind Control Psylocke attack. Oh, what's this here? Oh, now this is interesting. On the other side, we've got bullpen bulletins. Basically, here's Stan Lee hyping the fact that he's still doing a newspaper comic book strip with Spider-Man. And down here we have Marvel announcing the Groot the Wanderer comic, starting with issue 30. Oh no, wait a shit. 87. Groot will only be available in comic specialty shops and by subscription. So Groot was drawn by Sergio um, Argonez, and of course Sergio used to be a Mad Magazine cartoonist, and then he started doing Groot for like some smaller companies. Pacific, I might have come out from first, I can't remember right now, but for a moment it was being published by Marvel Comics Epic line. Here's talk about Operation Galactic Storm, which was a big cosmic epic that Marvel put out. And here is crossing over with Thor, Captain America, Quasar, Wonder Man, and Iron Man, and of course the Avengers and West Coast Avengers. Uh, Operation Galactic Storm, obviously a play on Operation Desert Storm, which was the the real life um, military involvement with Iraq and Iran, or not Iran, Iraq. Saddam Hussein. Okay, here's a thing saying if you want to submit work, don't call the office, just submit the work. And here, this is funny. In closing, we'd like to leave you with our foremost New Year's resolution. We resolve that this year, Mighty Marvel will not resort to any cheap gimmicks to sell our books. We will not do any multiple covers, glow-in-the-dark covers, 3D covers, hologram covers, embossed covers, peanut butter and jelly covers, or any tacky promotional tricks to sell our what's that? You folks like all those special format covers? Forget the resolution. No sooner made than broken. Okay, so anyway, back to the comic. We're about to have a fight. Here's Sabretooth and Betsy. Here's Wolverine and Maverick. Blood splattering. And the heroes have lost the fight. Okay, and the bad guys are all having a toast to their success. And it says, to be continued. Let's see here. Here's an ad for some comic book conventions. Ad for the Joe Kubert School. I think we got here. Letter page. Expressions. Editor Bob Harris. Susan Gaffney, assistant editor. All right. And are these subscriptions? Yeah, these are subscriptions. This is, of course, Jack Kirby drawing, of course. I don't know. If I had to put money on it, maybe that's a Bob Layton Iron Man. It looks very 80s, so I can't tell for sure. Three Musketeers Adventure. Big on chocolate. All right. And then the back ad is Terminator 2 video game ads. Game Boy. Judgment Day. All right, and that's it. Okay, pretty fun comic in a way. Jim Lee's technique is beyond compare, but his storytelling is like really weird and choppy. So a lot of times it's really hard to tell what's going on. It's kind of interesting too, because like I said, it's hard to understand what's going on once you figure out what's going on. It's not very complicated. It really just seems this issue is like just random fights and random people showing up out of nowhere. But you know what? That was the thing. That was the thing. There's no denying that this whole approach and style was extremely popular at the time. So, so yeah. So that's it. All right. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. You guys have a good day.